The world of calisthenics is filled with many adventures. Moves like the handstand, muscle up are exciting moves that honestly gets just about anybody that's just beginning calisthenics ecstatic to finally unlock those moves. Then you move into the heavy hitters like the handstand push-up, front lever, planche, and then that's when a journey gets very interesting. But these are phenomenal and power moves in calisthenics that can be unlocked with proper training, consistency, and patience. However, before even trying to commit to these goals, you need to avoid these big 3 mistakes when diving into the world of calisthenics. Let's dive in. And that first thing is not having a solid foundation. I can really go on a tangent about not having a solid foundation when training calisthenics. Pretty much anything for that matter, right? But when it comes to the world of calisthenics, if you don't have a solid foundation, it's like taking $1 million home and placing it on a cheap foundation. You just know after a matter of time, it's gonna break. So that's essentially the same thing when training calisthenics. I will always try to remind you guys, build a solid foundation. What does that consist of? Making sure you're proficient in push-ups, dips, pull-ups, some solid core exercises, because these basic and super simple exercises make a strong foundation when you're trying to learn the more complex moves in calisthenics. For instance, if you want to get good at a muscle up, I strongly suggest you have a solid foundation of pull-ups, push-ups, and dips. Believe it or not, dips have a strong carryover to muscle ups. When you're looking at the motion of the muscle up, you fully extend your arms and then you explode up like you would do a pull-up, but it's a little different. Instead of trying to pull your chest to the bar, you essentially pull away from the bar. From there, you transition over the bar, and guess what? That's where your shoulder strength comes in. And it's not to neglect the other muscles that play a crucial role when performing a muscle up, like your grip strength and other things, but having a good foundation of shoulder strength will definitely make your muscle ups more effortless. So you have people who do muscle ups where they kip, they bring their knees into their chest and they go over the bar, and then you have those other people who have more of a strict muscle up. They just pull from that bottom position, and a good portion of it comes from your pulling strength, but also your shoulder strength when transitioning over the bar. So increasing your strength when performing dips will help a lot with muscle ups, specifically straight bar dips. Basic moves provide a solid foundation when trying to learn the more complex moves in calisthenics. The same thing with handstand push-ups. When you have a solid foundation of push-ups and dips, they carry over well to handstand push-ups. And this is a common trope in calisthenics. Dips are the upper body squats. When you look at dips, right, it's the same motion as you would do a squat. So let's say you have a really good squat. I'm quite sure other leg exercises are pretty easy for you. If you're able to do dips with a couple of plates attached to you, then I'm quite sure you're gonna be really strong. So it's all about doing those simple exercises that's gonna make the more complex exercises a bit more accessible and safer. A strong and solid foundation is gonna greatly reduce your chances of incurring an injury. If your foundation is weak, you're just setting the pace to incur an injury. So keep that in mind when training calisthenics. And now it's time to jump into number 2, rushing through progressions and increasing the load too often. This is something that I really suffer from. Just training planche, for instance. You rush through the progressions because you like, hey, I had a really good training session today. I was able to do a handstand and straddle planche, and maybe I should go into like negative handstand to full planches. Don't do that. You may think, just like me, I felt really strong in today's training. And so rather than spend more time in that progression that you probably should have spent more time in, you go to the final one because you're like, you know what? That was a little easy. Do not make that mistake. And that's the prime reason why I think it's taking me so long to unlock the full planche. It's because I get so excited. I'm like, I'm really strong. I don't really need to spend so much time in handstand and straddle planche. Let me go to full planche. Your body's not ready for it. I always stress this. Your muscles are trained in calisthenics, but also your tendons and your ligaments. And your tendons and ligaments take a longer time to heal versus muscles. So you might have that false sense of confidence that, hey, I was able to have a good session today. I think I can move on to the next training session. But you have to make sure you give your tendons and ligaments time to heal. They don't heal as fast as your muscles do. So you may have that false sense of confidence because got through that progression relatively easy. I can go ahead and proceed to the next one. I highly suggest to you guys, spend more time in that progression, more than you think you should. If you're able to do 2 handstand push-ups, that's good, but I highly recommend to you guys to spend more time in the elevated pike position exercise. Accumulate reps with that and then go into handstand push-ups until you're able to do like 3, 4, or 5. And I also mentioned increasing the load too often. This is another problem. Let's say I'm doing weighted pull-ups with a 25-pound plate. I'm able to get like 6 to 8 reps with no problem. So what do? The next week, I might go to 35, 45 plus pounds because I was able to get 6 to 8 reps, sometimes 9 to 10 reps with a 25-pound plate. That was no problem. Next week, I'm gonna go ahead and go to 35, 45 pounds. You may think your body is ready. The mistake I made was trying to increase the load every single week. Sometimes you have to give your body time to adapt. Just because you're getting 6, 8, 10 reps with weighted pull-ups with the plate that you're choosing to train with doesn't mean the ensuing next week you should increase the load, especially past 10 pounds. Maybe 5 pounds, but 10, 15 pounds, that's too much. Give your body time to adjust accordingly. Sometimes we think when training, especially in the field of calisthenics, that we have to increase every single week or every single time we train, and that's not the case. Spend more time allowing your body to properly adapt to the weight that you're using. For example, tug planche to straddle planche, there's a huge gap. So you have to make sure you spend more time in that tug planche just to make sure it's solidified. Then maybe try the exercise L sit to straddle planche just to make sure your body get used to that straddle planche position. But to go from immediately tug planche to trying to hold a straddle planche, it's crazy. And that's how you have the wear and tear on your tendons and your ligaments, and that's what's gonna slow your progression. So make sure you guys don't speed up your progressions, don't increase the load every single week. Take your time and enjoy the process. And the final mistake I want you guys to avoid is jumping from skill to skill. Again, calisthenics is very, very exciting. Those moves you see on Instagram, YouTube, they're very exciting, right? And you're like, man, I wanna be able to do those moves. And so you begin training those moves. But then you see another move, you're like, hey, I think I could go ahead and combine the training to unlock that move as well. You think about front lever and planche. The muscles used in those moves are a little different. You know, with front lever, you're gonna be working your muscles like the teres major, teres minor, your lats, some of your core. Planche, you're gonna be working predominantly your frontal delts, chest, core, the entire body like you would do in the front lever. But guess what? They're inextricably bound to each other. You're still gonna be working your tendons and your ligaments. It may take you longer to unlock one because you're training your tendons and your ligaments. Not saying it can't be done, but it may take you a little bit longer. And if you're okay with that journey, then kudos to you. But if you're someone that's like, hey, I wanna unlock the planche in this amount of time than the front lever, I highly advise you guys, stay to that one skill. Don't jump from skill to skill. Handstand push-up and 90-degree handstand push-up are pretty similar. You could train both of those skills. But of course, if you're trying to unlock the 90-degree handstand push-up, you gotta make sure your handstand push-up is on lock. But the handstand push-up carries over to the 90-degree handstand push-up. So you could train multiple skills in calisthenics, but those heavy hitters in calisthenics, I strongly suggest to stick to one. That was the mistake that I was making. I was trying to train planche, 90-degree handstand push-up, front lever, weighted pull-ups. I was training every single one of these exercises at the same time. Guess what? I was making good progress. I started to regress more and more. And that's honestly due to my tendons and ligaments not healing. And quite frankly, pretty much my entire body not healing, because those are some big movements. So they require nutrition, good amount of sleep, proper rest in general. You got to make sure you provide your body with the right mechanisms so that it can properly heal. So make sure you guys, if you want to progress faster, stick to the same skill. But these are the 3 common mistakes that you're gonna find in calisthenics, especially in my journey. So I wanna make sure you guys proceed accordingly, safely, so that way you can reach your goals faster than I did, okay? Make sure you guys smash that like button if you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to make sure you are properly subscribed. I'll see you guys next video. Peace and love as always, and now shade, boom, we out, baby.